All right, one more time. I'm going to show you a little bit of what I've been doing. It's been a short while since I've made any videos on this 1925 Chrysler. And I've been working on the seats and springs, and they were rotted right to death. I mean bad. Some of the front springs I couldn't even use. I had to go find an old couch in the woods and pull the springs out of it and make a seat out of it. So let me give you a look-see what I'm screwing up. What I'm fixing. All right, here you go. All right, I put this in. I don't remember what the last video showed, but this is the bottom half of the back seat, the flat area. Then there's a spring that goes inside of this, just a piece of plywood. It was made out of strips, a bunch of real thin strips, but you're not going to see it, so I didn't think it was necessary to do. And of course, I'm putting plywood on the floors instead of all the slats that it had originally. And this was the backing of the front back seat, which, as you can see, all the black lung disease that's going on here. We're not going to use that, but I kept it as a pattern. I've got another plan for that. That's just a piece of cardboard they used to put between the springs and this part of the seat to keep it from chafing or making noise, because it's only held up here with pieces of leather, and it just lays against this, and then it sandwiches on the back. That's what it does. It sits back here. I got to figure out how it all works, because it's a weird sewing ordeal. I think I got to put the spring here, cover the springs, sit it here, leave the front wild, put the seat on with these leather straps, which just lets the seat float like that, which is a little odd. We'll have to look into that. Put these leather straps on. You can see how they were there. And the material on the top of the seat goes here, lays down on here, and it gets attached to the car. So this is the only place here, and here is the only place this back spring, so it appears, other than this strip of wood that attaches this back spring to the seat. So yeah, I'm still working on all this, because I had nothing to work with. Everything was rotted away so bad that I couldn't tell how it was assembled. And I had to do a lot of guessing on the front seat up here. So the seat front springs, these are the ones I had to make because they were absolutely gone. So I made this set of springs, which I'll show you. They sit on this track here and up here, and it leaves you, I don't know, 4 inches of space in here to put all the tools and whatnot and spare parts it's going to take to keep this unit running down the road. So, it's good. That's the only storage you have in the car to speak of. And of course, the front floors, the wood was in good shape. They were slats. So I'm going to put the slats back in the front and just throw a light carpet over it, so you can take it up at a car show or something, and you can see that it has the original floor in it, just for shits and giggles, just to do it. But I've got to redo all the interior in the car, and I'm going to try to do it so it looks like it's been in here 100 years. Since I don't know how to sew, this is going to be really interesting. So we'll see how all that's going to work. I'm going to try to keep maybe keep some of this really nasty material. Maybe I'll have to see about that as we go along. See if anything can be used, even though it's ugly. That might add to the character of the car. But let me show you the springs. Here's one of them. This is, let me see, which one was this? Oh, this is a spring I salvaged out of another car, because it was just, the spring that was there was unusable. And of course, I did a plywood base. They had it made out of a bunch of sticks and whatever, but I'm not going there. So I just made it out of a piece of plywood. I put my vent in the bottom of it, so when you sit down and it doesn't blow the sides out of the material. And of course, it's only close, so I'm going to have to build this area up in here with foam and do a little finagling. But it's close enough that I can make it work. And since, you know, this is what I'm working with, and it's good. Yeah, I got to get this thing done because spring is getting here quickly, and this car's getting on the road. And this is one of the springs I had to make right here. Took all these individual springs out of an old sofa. This is the original housing here. This piece going around it there. That's the original, so that's how I kept the shape. Even that I had to bend new pieces for it because that was rotted in pieces. But all these springs on the original were completely rotted to where I could not use them anymore. And the springs that were on here were put in all these individual socks. And of course, I took a piece of canvas. Actually, it was an old drop cloth. And since I didn't know how to sew, and I've got to figure it all out, I went back and made about 10-foot sock looking tubes, and then started whacking them off and putting them on the springs. Sewed them together. And I was practicing trying to sew a straight line because they're all sewed together because it was just a drop cloth. And I think it was like 11 inches wide. Then I had to fold it over on itself and sew it. And I couldn't sew a straight line. Yeah, you could see one of the lines where I sewed it together. And then, of course, the springs are different heights. This spring and this spring is a little bit short. This is shorter. These two are about the same length, and this is long. So it gives it an angle like that. Yeah, you can see how it is. And I had to keep all the springs separated and figured out. So it's it sounded like it no real big deal, but to put the socks on everything, then keep the springs in order, then put all the hog rings on it and get it tight and get it on here, get the springs on. I've been about a week and a half working on these, which is about 8 days really for me. A week and a half, about 8 days. Fooling with these springs, and every one of them needed something. Some of them needed new wire. All these taken off and put new wire. And of course I had to, luckily that bed that was back there, or the couch, had, you know, was made out of a bunch of wires and springs, so I wound up cutting it up and using it as my materials. Yeah, you can see that's a place I welded it through there. So I had to put new wire on it, and then I had to do it in the corner on the other side. This is the back. This is the front seat back. This is the back of the back seat. This is the front seat of the car, and that is the back seat. So I've got them ready to go as far as the springs go. Right now I am fastening this spring to the plywood, the base of the seat, which is, I'm having to make a bunch of little brackets to go in here around the springs, because I can't get in here too far down to put a washer and a screw, so I have to do it on the outside, but yet I have to keep it far enough away from the corner so it'll work. All these other ones are fairly easy, but that's where we're at. I'd like to have taken a picture of this when I was doing it, but I ran out of time on my phone, and I didn't have any more picture room, and I didn't want anybody seeing me get mad at all these sewing machine stuff I got to do. So it had been ugly anyway. But this is where it is. These are 1925 Chrysler front seat and springs. So if you're ever scratching your head trying to figure out what the springs look like for an old car, like a 25 Chrysler, this is what they look like. Whoop-de-doo, right? All right, so that's where we are. I don't have a whole lot to show you until I start screwing with the sewing machine. Yeah, I spent, oh shoot, probably 2 days just trying to figure out how to get the sewing machine to work. It's an old Singer. So, oh, it's like a cave in here. And the Lord said, let's have lights. And there you go. See, it's an old Singer. And like I said, I don't have a clue how to sew. So it took me and a friend of mine to get it to operate and adjust everything okay. And of course, all the drags or the tension on everything was so far out of whack that it was doing nothing but turning into a bird's nest when you tried to sew something. And since we knew nothing about, at least I didn't, nothing about the tension, we were just going in different directions and it was just screwing everything up. But we finally got it sort of maybe figured out. So now I can turn the sewing machine on and I can sew about 4 inches before it screws up. So I should be good. All right. So this is where we are. Yeah. And yeah, that's it. Okay. Well, since there's not much else to look at, I haven't done anything with the 34 truck yet. I'd like to get this truck done. So, I can have it ready for spring. It's sort of close. It's about like finishing the puzzle on the, when you got 35 pieces left. Just put them together somewhere, But that's where we are with that. All right. Well, that's it. So I guess after I get these springs done, I'm going to jump right into the electrics and the mechanics. And I guess before I do that, I am going to change this fender out and make my running boards. But once I get that done, then I'm going to do the electrics and get the engine running and the fuel system and the brakes. And there's also a big list of things that got to be done, and the interior. And then I want to get that truck over there done, completely finished and put together. So we'll get it all done. All right. So, till next time, later.